Hi everyone. A few days ago I was challenged by Hoosier HIllbilly22 and his daughter Tiny Tornado for the Make-A-Wish fundraiser that's currently underway. The challenge that I was given is a really interesting one and I accepted it. What I have to do is take a 1 ounce Canadian silver maple leaf round, somehow split it in half, then melt each half-ounce piece into a new half-ounce round and send them back to Hoosier Hillbilly. So I took a screenshot of the guidelines to be sure I'm not missing anything. And full disclosure, in this video, Brad has a really nice Canadian maple leaf round that he was going to send me to cut and to melt. But I had another idea that met with Brad's approval for this challenge. I have this Canadian maple leaf that has milkiness on the surface of the round. I'm not sure if those will catch it, but you can kind of see the surface has those blemishes on it. And that is a condition that sometimes occurs on silver rounds. My understanding is that it has something to do with a chemical that's used to clean the silver planchets before they're stamped. And on rare occasions, the chemical isn't completely washed off, and that would cause this discoloration over time. So my thought was that I just cut this blemished maple leaf round for the challenge, and Brad can do something else with his nicer maple leaf, and I believe he's going to announce that on his next live stream. So anyway, there we have it. I have to think of a way to cut this rather chunky piece of silver into 2 pieces that when melted will weigh within 0.5 grams of each other. I've never done anything quite like this before, so I'll go through my plan with you. There might be an easier way to do it, but I'll go with what I think will work. Well, first I have a Dremel tool, and I have a metal cutting blade for the Dremel tool. And my first thought was to use that to do the cutting, but I think for this task I'm going to go a little old school and use a cold chisel. I have a few. Here's one. There's another one. I have a few that were my grandfather's, and I like the idea of putting the old tools into use. And you can tell they were used a lot in their day. My grandfather was a metal worker by profession, and I like how the ends are mushroomed from so much use. And I already brought this one to the bench grinder, set it on a very low speed, and put a little bit of an edge back on the chisel. Like I said, they haven't been used for quite some time. And if you don't know what a cold chisel is, it is a tool that's used to cut and shape metal. This type of chisel is made of hardened steel. It's much harder than silver and other metals, which is one of the reasons why a cold chisel can use to be cut another piece of metal, like a frozen bolt. Now, when you're cutting metal with a chisel, you need to use a fair amount of force to drive that cutting edge into the material. And to do that, I have this. It's a 3 pound, I think it's 3 pound, a 3 pound drilling hammer. Looks a little bit like a handheld sledgehammer. A regular claw hammer would take a lot longer to do the job anywhere near as well. And the round has to be, in order to cut it properly, the round has to be placed on a pretty hard surface. And I don't have anything like an anvil, but I do have this old bench vise. And I have this big chunk of steel. And I'm thinking I'll take that chunk of steel. This does have a surface that I could use, but I think what I'll do is put this on there and like that, and just hammer it away there. I think that will work. But like I said, I've never done this before, so it may fail miserably. And I'll admit that as I look over this method, I ask myself, why not just use the Dremel tool? But I'm going to go with this, no changing horses midstream. And it really won't matter how rough the 2 pieces of silver will look after I cut them, because they're going to be melted down in step 2 of the process. So if they're scratched or dented or ragged, it really won't make a difference. Now, let's take a look at this again, back to the round. As far as where I should cut this, because it has to be exactly in the center or pretty close to the center. My first thought was to just estimate some sort of midline on the round, find the center point and take some measurements from there. But I noticed something earlier that I think, or at least I hope, will help. Now, as far as the obverse goes, I didn't exactly feel right of cutting into the image of Her Majesty the Queen. It seemed kind of disrespectful. I know I'm going to melt it anyway, but still. So on the reverse of the round is, of course, a maple leaf. And I noticed that this maple leaf has a rib. I don't know if that's the proper term, but it has this structure going up the middle of the leaf. And it looks to be right in the center of the round. So I did take a quick measurement. And if I go there, actually it'd be easier to use this side, I guess. Yeah, definitely. So if I go from that rib to the edge, we pretty much have a 3/4 of an inch. And if we do the same thing on this side, from that rib to the edge, we have 3/4 of an inch. So I think I can use that rib and just draw a line. I'll take a Sharpie and draw a line, and that will give me 2 halves of the round. So let's see if this works. So that's lined up. Yeah, looks pretty close. So that will give me a little bit of a guide as to where I should hit with the cold chisel. Now, what I think I'll do is start with this smaller cold chisel, and I'll probably start by just kind of using this to score a line in the round, and then maybe I'll move to this bigger one because it's heavier, more mass, more force, hopefully. All I'm going to do is cut about 3/4 of the way through. So I'll try to cut to, that's going to be hard to see, I think, but I think if the chisel cuts, not sure if you can see that, but if it cuts right to the end of there, so I don't have to go all the way through, then that'll be enough so I can take this and take a couple pairs of pliers, grab hold and flex it, or actually for that, yeah, actually I think what I would do is just I'd put the round in the vise and then take a pair of pliers and flex it that way. That'd be much more stable, I think. Either way it should work. I think the vise would work better too, come to think of it. But again, the trick is that these pieces have to be within 0.5 grams of each other. Brad's a carpenter and he demands precision, maybe a bit more than I do, but we'll go with that. I'll start slow, score the surface. Once I have that cut, I'll begin to hit the chisel much harder. And by the way, I'm recording this with my phone, and it's mounted to a portable, one of those portable folding workbenches off to the side, so hopefully it won't shake as I hammer away at this round. I'll have to reposition it too, so I'm going to stop the video here, reposition things, and then I will start cutting the round, or attempt to cut the round. Okay, I think you can see this. I hope you can see this. I had to position the camera to the side and at an angle so I have enough room to maneuver with the chisel and the hammer. But let's see how this goes. I'll start on the end. And the trick I think will be to keep this chisel perfectly, keep it perpendicular. And did it. I'll slowly go down. This is not going to be pretty when it's done. So yeah, the reason why you need to have this on a hard surface is because you want the force of the hammer to travel down the chisel to the piece of metal and not be absorbed as much by whatever's underneath it. So if I had wood or something softer underneath the round, that would absorb some of the force, and I don't want that to happen. I want the force to be directed down the chisel into the material. drifted a little bit, but I think it'll be okay. Yeah, it's coming along. I might even be able to get away with just using this chisel. A jeweler I am not. And there are, oh, that was an ugly hit. There are probably machinists out there who are laughing. Let's see. All right, we're getting there. I think I will use the other chisel. See how this does. It's cutting. Just taking it slow. Actually, I should show it. After this next hit, I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so that's what it looks like. That actually might be enough. A few more hits on that side, but that should be enough, so if I flex it, it should snap in half. Let's see. I think a few more cuts here. It's beginning to fold up on itself. Yeah. You can see the V. Sorry, it's off camera. You can see the V that the chisel's make. That's the tip of the chisel, the shape of the tip of the chisel. I'm still going to do a few more on this side. In fact, maybe I'll go with a smaller one now. You know what? I think that... Oh, that's fine. Okay. That's going to break without much force at all. And like I said, it doesn't really matter what that looks like. It's all going to melt and burn off. Okay, well, I'll turn the camera off and I'll put this in the vise. Actually, I guess I don't have to really... Yeah, I will turn the camera off. And, oh, look at that. Is that... No, that's just a piece of paper or a piece of dust. I'll put this in the vise, I'll start flexing it, and see where we go from there. Okay, nothing particularly fancy here. I have it in the vise, nice and tight, and I'm going to take a pair of vise grips and try to get fairly close to that cut. Tighten that a bit more. I don't want this slipping. There we go. And the idea is if I just rock this back and forth, it should snap in half. So let's see how we do. It's coming. There we go. So that's one half. It's probably gonna fall. And that is the other half. So let's weigh these and see if they are pretty close. I'll get the scale out and show you that part. You know, as I'm doing all this, I'm thinking, gee, I hope the previous videos have all recorded because I can't really go back and do this again, but we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. So I have a scale, and it measures to 1/100th of a gram, and here are the two pieces. One piece. So hopefully this is going to come close to half a gram. If one piece is heavier than the other, then that's really not a big deal. What I could do is, if let's say this piece is a little bit more, I can just take the cold chisel again, cut a little bit off, and then add that to this piece when I melt it. So hopefully they are going to be really close to half a gram each, but let's see what they are. I'm curious. So let that reset. In fact, this is the smallest little brass weight that I have. It's 1 gram, so let's make sure that this is 0.98. Okay, I'm gonna do that again. .97, .98. Well, that's pretty close. Oh, 0.99. Okay, that's pretty close. The scale is actually, for what it is pretty accurate. So, fingers crossed. Let's see what we have. All right, we have 16.22 grams. I should write that down. $16.22. Okay. Let's see what this one comes out to. Oh boy, they're way off. 15.24. So this side is a full gram heavier than that. Let me take that weight again. And I'm not surprised actually, because looking at this now, that top cut was not all that great. But I trust the scale. 16.21. 15.25, and that matches the other readings. Okay, so that just means I have to go back, take this piece, the heavier piece, and maybe just trim a little bit, maybe, like right there. Take maybe that much off. And that should bring us into that range that we need. So let's do that. I'll turn the camera off. I'll get everything set back up, and we'll take that little piece off. Okay, here we are again. I'm not going to use the steel block. It worked really well, but I think for cutting a little piece, I think this little anvil part of the vise will work. I definitely want to use a smaller cold chisel, and let's just see how well we do. In fact, let me move some things out of the way first. I'll get the scale over here. Okay, let's give this a go. Okay, so we have a little cut in there. It's kind of hard to see. Yeah, little cut right there. Maybe a few more hits, and I'll grab the vice grips and I'll just remove that piece. And fingers crossed, that will bring us within that variance, that 0.5 gram variance. All right, that's good enough to try to just grab hold of. I think. Okay. And there is the piece of silver that will hopefully make the difference. So let me move the camera back to the scale and we'll take a measurement. Okay, we're back at the scale and we have the two pieces. This is the piece that had the bit cut off, but this plus this will hopefully even things out. So let's see what we have. Here's the piece with a cut. And we have 15.74 grams. Okay. Well, actually, I suppose I should really measure the scale to make sure it's weighing true. And I have a fan on in the back, and if you can hear a humming in the back, it's really quite warm in the garage, so I have the fan on. And they do say that a little bit of wind or a little bit of vibration can change the measurements in here, but yeah, it's hovering right around 1 gram. In fact, that's pretty darn close. Okay, I'm satisfied. Okay, let's take this piece. Again, 15.75 grams. Kind of doing the math in my head. Actually, that'll be really close. No way, 15.75. No, I don't trust that. That would be crazy. All right, 15.7. Here, I'm going to turn off the fan for this. Where's that remote? All right, yeah, you can see with the fan off, the numbers are not really moving around that much. Okay, 15.77 grams. Okay, you go there. And that piece is the original piece, and this little bit comes out to 15.80 grams. Wow. So if those numbers are correct, and I certainly trust them, this is well within that tolerance. The two pieces were supposed to be within half a gram of each other, and by this scale, they are within 5/100ths of a gram, or 1/20th of a gram, not half a gram. Oh, one more time. 5.75. I'm sorry, 15.75, right? Of course, 15.77. 15.78. Wow. Not bad. Okay, so what we now have move that out of the way. Okay, so here we are, the two pieces. This is the piece that needed the little bit extra. It was a little bit light. And looking at the directions that Brad gave me for the challenge, figure out how to split silver round into 2 equal parts. Yeah, I've done that. Successfully complete the split. I think we've done that. Step 3, melt down and pour 2 silver pieces equal in weight within 0.5 grams. Well, if each piece is pretty much the same going into the melt, then I hope they will be the same going out. But step 3, actually melting these down, I'm going to do either later tonight or tomorrow, but so far, I think this has been a success. In fact, what I think I'll do is edit this video a bit, put it all together, and I'll post it tonight, and then part 2 will be tomorrow, and I will fire up the torch and melt these 2 pieces and pour them into 1/2 ounce rounds. All right, thanks for watching, and fingers crossed, part 2 will go fairly smoothly. Take care, everybody.